Hello everyone, welcome to another Roblox scripting tutorial. Today we're going to be learning how to make a band system. Now this band system will have three critical functions. A player list where you can select an in-game player, a username input so you can kick somebody from across another server, and a duration system so we can ban someone for a certain amount of time. Alright, let's get started. So, the first thing you're going to want to do is create your GUI. Now, I'm going to pause the video while I create my GUI, because this is going to be a boring step, but we'll follow back up when we get there. Alright, so I've made our GUI. It doesn't really matter what you name these, as long as you reference them and do them accordingly as you mean them in the code. So say your kick button isn't called kick, as long as you reference this button's name, right here, see, it will still work. So you do not have to name it what I name it, they just have to correspond in the code. Anyway, let's get some of our client-sided code out of the way. But first, to do that, we need remote events. To keep this organized, I'm going to be using a folder in replicated storage. You do not have to do this, it's just my choice of organization. So we want three remotes: ban, kick, and unban. Not unban 3. Alright, so now that we have our three remotes and in our folders, all nice and safe in replicated storage, and we will make sure this is exploit proof too. So, the next thing you want to do is put a local script in player list. Once you have your local script in there, you'll notice in here I have a template for my player names. You're going to need one of these, as these will be how your admins will be selecting the player, and it will go into this text box. This is very, very important. You want to put this into your local script, so it's no longer there. And then, we're going to want to write some code here. So the first code that we're going to want to write is our variables. Now, we want to reference a couple of things. We want to reference our remote events folder, local remotes, and then reference it in replicated storage. So game.replicated storage : wait for child admin remotes. So this is what mine is called. You can manually reference these remotes, but I highly recommend putting it in a folder. It will make your life so much easier. The next thing you want to do is reference your template. So local template is equal to script.template. And this will now call this guy when we need it. So we can clone this several times and put the player names on it. Alright, so the next thing we want to do is write our functions for the code. So let's write a local function. So local function update list. And this will clean up our list and add new players. So we want to add an argument called player. And this will come in helpful later. So the first thing we want to do is get rid of all the children of a player list if they are a text button. We don't want to get rid of the UI list layout, as that's important for making sure that your things stay aligned and aren't on top of each other. Okay, so the first thing we do is write a for loop for this. So you can write for underscore v in pairs, and then you write script.parent : get children do. And what this will do is get all of the children, regardless of what they are or not. Now to filter it out, we want to look at if the : is a text button, then v : destroy. That's not a v. And there. It will now clear out only the text buttons with player names. Now, why would I do this, you may ask? Well, there's a very good reason for it, actually. The first thing being that if a new player joins the game and then leaves, then every like 30 seconds you want to update your list so that left player isn't there anymore, because you only have a limited space in your scrolling frames. So if you run out of space, you can't select new users joining. So this is a really important line. So the next thing we want to do is we want to do for underscore comma v in pairs, and we want to do game dot players colon get players, not get children, get players, because there could be another instance besides a player object. And we can have our do here, and then the next thing we want to type is local new is equal to template colon clone. There, now we have a copy of our player name template. The next thing we want to do is type new.text is equal to v.name. Now this will set the text property of our template to the player name so we can read what player name it is. The next thing you want to do is new.name is equal to v.name. And now the name property, this will come in very important later, and you'll see why. But now our name property is the same as our text property. And we want to do new.parent is equal to player, or not player list, but script.parent. And that's our update function. So down here, we want to do our while loop. And what we want to do is while wait. This will wait a certain amount of time before it returns a true function. So the next thing you want to do type is an amount of time you want it to repeat this. I wouldn't suggest doing this under 15 seconds, else the game gets laggier and laggier for the person with the admin panel. So the thing you want, I'm gonna do 20, and we can do well wait 20 do, then we can call update list. But it's not it. You remember, we passed in a player argument. However, I think I wasn't very smart here because we didn't even need it. So you have your update list function. It loops through all the players, gets their name, sets it to all the properties we need it, and there we go. But you may be asking yourself, hey, Andrew, why are we not able to click the buttons and the name doesn't pop up yet? Well, there's a reason for that, and I'll get to it in a second. But for now, let's test and see if our player list works. It's going to have to wait 20 seconds, though, which is a little bit annoying. So we've already started the clock about, as soon as the gray screen comes up, you start the clock, by the way. So, like, we're going to waiting. And make sure output's all clean. And there we go. Our name has shown up. And every 20 seconds, it will destroy and replace. Alright, so we're back in the code. So now, the next thing we want to do is we're going to want to add another variable up here. Call it button connections. And then we're going to make that equal to a table. Now, what we're going to do is basically make a function in this table for new. So we're going to want to do button connections, number of button connections, so the number of entries in button connections, plus 1 is equal to function, or not function. We're going to want to do new dot mouse button one click colon connect function. Ah, so we run into a little bit of an issue here. And this is why I think we do need the player variable. So we're going to take this for loop here, and I'm going to put it down here. Now this function's going to get called a bunch of times, but that doesn't really matter. We can just do v, update list v. We can put a nice end here, and bam. We have our problem fixed. Except you add a v argument here, and you're all good. So now that we have no issues with our... Oh, ooh, that's an issue. We're going to change v to player because v is referenced here and it's already defined. So you just destroy the player object, basically kicking you from the game, I'm pretty sure. Alright, but anyway, now that we have this referenced, we're going to reference a few more things in our variables. So you're going to want to go to Explorer and find what your things are called. So in this case, I'm going to call player name. So local player name is equal to script.parent.parent.player name. Not player list, player name. Alright. So now that we have our player name variable, we want to do player name.text is equal to new.name. Now, when I play this, I'm going to shorten this wait time because I don't want to wait that long every time. Just for demonstration purposes, I'm shortening this. You can leave your code the way it is to test it because you don't have a limited time for your videos. Alright, so it's shown up. Now, every 5 seconds, that's going to get deleted for a split second. I'm coming back. So if I click this right here, it'll put my name in here. Yay. So now that we've confirmed that everything is working correctly, I'll explain how this works. Button connections plus 1 makes this function work because this is a table and functions can still run from a table. So you may be wondering, hey, how is this working? It's because your function is in this table. I'm adding a registry by putting brackets here. It's adding a registry for your button connection. Now, that we have all of that code done, I think we are ready to code the ban button and the kick button scripts. So, the first thing you're going to want to do is put a local script in main. We're only going to be coding ban in this video on client side because I don't want to make this video over 20 minutes long. So, the first thing we want to do is reference our 3 UI objects. So local player name is equal to script.parent.player name. The next thing we want to do is reference our reason. So local reason is equal to script.parent.reason. Local duration is equal to script.parent.duration. And there, we now have referenced all of our UI code. I'm going to make my code look nicer by commenting it. Alright, so now that we have those written out, we want to reference our remotes. So we want to do local admin, or just local remotes, is equal to game.replicate_storage wait for child admin remotes. Because we don't know if this script is going to load faster than replicated storage's remote events will, you always use wait for child when you're referencing replicated storage. Anyway, Now that we've got our remotes folder out of the way, we can do the next part of this, which are mouse click events. So, the only one we're going to be doing in this video is ban. So we want to do script.parent.ban.mouse button one click connect function. Now the good thing is we don't have to pass parameters into this function. So the first thing we're going to want to do is get our duration into a number. So local num duration is equal to toNumber duration. And this will try to convert it into a number. If it can't, it will throw an error and this function will crash. But do not worry, it will not break the script as we are not using a while loop. So if type num duration is equal to, we want to type number in quotes here. And this will see if it actually successfully converted to a number. So now we want to do remotes.ban fire server. And here's where we pass through a bunch of data. So we want to pass through these three things: player name dot text, reason dot text, and num duration. However, I made a mistake here, duration dot text. So now we have fired 3 pieces of data over to the server. That concludes part 1 of how to make a banning system on Roblox. If you did enjoy this video, please consider subscribing, as I noticed that less than 1% of my viewers are actually subscribed, and I really want to hit 1K by the end of this year, which is kind of a stretch, but we'll see. Anyways, thanks for watching, and
turning off my mind so I get by. I just wanna be happy.